everyone and welcome back. In today's video I'm going to be showing 5 ways that you can fix ruined or messed up pages in your sketchbook without tearing the page out. And I have so many pages sometimes where something has gone wrong. I've pressed too hard with my pencil, I've rubbed away some of the paper, or the page has got ruined somehow and I can't use it how I originally planned. And recently it's been my goal not to tear any pages out of my sketchbook, but to find a way to save the page. And today I'm going to be showing you five of my favourite ways that I've been saving my sketchbook pages. So for this first page, the idea is to cut out an element and to glue it over the ruined part, and you can only really do this when it's only a very small portion of your image that's ruined. And this is also quite a good idea. This is also quite a good technique if you've got an image that you've spent a lot of time on already. So this image here, I'd sketched the whole thing in, I'd lined everything, and so I'd already put over an hour's work into the page. And then as I was rubbing out the pencil lines, it tore the paper near one of her eyes. And it tore the paper because I'd pressed too hard with the pencil and rubbed it out too many times. So what I did was, on a separate piece of paper, I drew out some different elements, and these are actually digital stamps, but you can go ahead and draw them out by hand. And I cut out a leaf and glued it over her eye. Now the leaf kind of fits in with the theme of the drawing, which has vines and sort of a natural frame. Now, it wasn't part of my original idea, but sometimes these sorts of mistakes can sometimes be almost like a blessing in disguise, because they force you to really think about, how can I save this page? What can I glue over it? How can I make something work in this layout? And even though you may think it looks a bit odd, I actually quite like how the piece turned out in the end. And to be honest, I don't think anybody would know necessarily that that's a mistake. They may think it's sort of 3D, that you were trying something different. So sometimes when you have a mistake like that, where you've already put quite a lot of time and effort into a piece, it's nice to save it and just to turn it into something else. And that really pushes your creativity a little bit, and it forces you to just look at the page and think, can I save this? What can I do? And cutting out an element and gluing it over the top like that is one way. Now this next page is a page where I've pressed too hard with a pencil, gone over time and time again, and messed it up. And I can't colour over it because everything will show through. So my solution here is to mess it up even more. Now that may sound kind of crazy, but if you mess it up enough, it ends up looking nice again. So all I've done is I started out with blue pencil lines. I went over with 2 other types of pencil, just scribbled, and then I'm just grabbing random supplies off my desk, and then I grabbed a few distress inks, went in, smeared things around. The tip here is to keep to a limited colour palette. So if you don't put every colour imaginable on the page, because then you'll only get mud. But I stuck to blue, pink and green as my kind of colour palette, and it's just an idea of layering, and you just got to keep on layering and layering and layering until it begins to look nice. And in a way, this is a similar technique to an art journal page. If you've ever seen an art journal video, then you may kind of recognise what I'm doing here. But I have fine liners on that page, I've got pencils, I have some distress inks, I've got some water-based markers. Now if you don't have lots of different types of supplies, then just kind of look round. What can you use in different ways? And what I ended up doing was, I didn't go ahead and smear one supply all over it. I did that a little bit with the inks, but as you can see, I'm using the pens to make tiny little marks. You want it to be kind of abstract, I think abstract tends to work better, but I go in with my paint pen, I'm making dots, I'm making little squiggles. It's just an idea to keep on layering and adding things until it looks good again. And I even took a tiny bit of white acrylic paint, and I took a brush that had been messed up and the bristles had all sort of gone hard and flat, but I found that if I put it into the paint, it kind of made these interesting little marks, and that's what you want to go for. If you don't have lots of different pens and markers, then grab some paint and layer up some different paint on the page, and just kind of make it so that you can't see the mistake anymore, but you've turned the page into this very interesting, cool, abstract background. And I also find that these pages are really relaxing, because you're just sort of sitting there just chucking stuff at the page, and you can just keep on going and going and going and going until you feel that it looks really nice. And if you make a mistake, you can go ahead and cover it up with something else. And you can when you finish, when you got the page to a point where it looks nice again, what I did was I added a sticker, and I added a quote which said "always believe in your dreams," and a few little pieces of washi tape to kind of finish the page off. Now this next page, again, it's a page that I scribbled on and I couldn't rub it out. And the idea with this page is to make a collage, and this is another nice way of just filling up a page of your sketchbook and getting rid of something underneath that's ugly and rather embarrassing, frankly, which is what that witch's hat was. It was rather embarrassing, so I'm covering it up. And this is a great way to use up old leftover wrapping paper. Now you can use pattern paper, you can use tissue paper, you could use newspaper if you wanted to, but a lot of us have maybe old wrapping paper. I keep old wrapping paper from gifts all the time, so I have quite a big stack of it. And again, I'm working in threes, and I think when you're doing these sorts of things, working in threes is always a good idea. So 3 colours, 3 different types of paper, and that way you kind of keep a consistent it makes it look nice. So something about threes. So I've got 3 different types of wrapping paper. One of them's actually quite dark and black, and the other 2 are white, and they're all sort of florally and nature inspired. And I'm just ripping them up into tiny little pieces. I'm using glue and seal because I have it, and that's a nice collage medium, and it sort of seals the papers down. But you can use any type of glue, Pritt stick, any glue you have around your house will be fine. And you just rip up lots of little bits of paper and put them on. And then again, I had a big sticker sheet, so I picked up a sticker and a quote, and I just sort of stuck it in the middle of the page, and it makes a really pretty page in the middle of your sketchbook. It's quite unexpected when you're flipping through it, but it makes a pretty page, and it covers up the embarrassment underneath. Now with this page, I'd gone ahead and I'd inked something in, and my mistake wasn't on the middle of the page, it was actually over to one edge, and you can see the paper ripped because some tape got on it, and then I pulled the tape up and it ripped the paper. And so with this idea, you want to cut out the problem, and you can only really do this technique when your mistake is on one far side of the paper, so it's either at the very top or the very bottom or the very edge. And what you do is you kind of make like a flap. So, and this creates another very interesting looking page in your sketchbook. Now I'm just going to go ahead and colour in that design that I drew out, and you saw I added some nice washi tape borders to the page. But you could do an awful lot with this technique. So if you've got a sketchbook where you've made a mistake on one side, you could cut round it, and you can almost make a border or a frame for the page underneath it. And so what I did was I went ahead and I coloured it in with some blues, so that you could match the page underneath it, match those blues and greens and yellows on the page underneath it, that girl. And I've sort of cut it with a wavy line and to reveal her face, but not to reveal the whole background. So when you have a page like that, and you want to make a border or a frame, like a little door, like I have, it's quite a good idea to consider what's on the page underneath it, and that way you can kind of think what would work. I mean, another nice thing with this sort of technique is if you've got a mistake right in the middle of the page, you could go ahead and cut out a circle, or cut out multiple circles and make I don't know if you've ever seen like a window card, where sometimes you have a greeting card and it has a circle that reveals a little bit of the inside of the card, like a background. Well, you could do a similar thing here. You could do a lot of things with this sort of technique, and again, it cuts out any problem or mistake you made, and it makes it look really intentional. If you go through my sketchbook and you were looking at this page, you'd think I'd done that on purpose. You wouldn't know that I was working around a mistake. And that's what all of these tips that I'm sharing today are, just ways of making the mistake not a mistake anymore and working around it. And I also think that sometimes when you're going through a sketchbook that's very similar, having a page that's suddenly cut out or cut at an odd angle or collaged over, it adds a lot of interest into that sketchbook, particularly for you as you're looking back through it, or if you're showing it to other people. And it also makes it fun for you, because sometimes drawing the same sorts of things again and again, I can find it a little bit boring. So I like to add a little bit of mixed media to my sketchbooks and cut some pages and do some fun things just to make it fun. And it's also helpful when you're a bit stuck on ideas. It's a kind of I find it helpful if you're a little bit blocked on certain days to sort of do something like that. And this final tip is to make a pocket in your sketchbook. And you could just go ahead and just cover your mistake up with pattern paper and that would look really nice. But I decided to make a pocket because a pocket is really useful in a sketchbook. You could stick some memorabilia in there if you wanted to. You could stick some tickets, or you could stick a colour chart for your art supplies that you're using. And all you do is I glued down a background, and then I cut out a small panel and put double-sided tape down the 3 sides of it on the edge, and then glued that panel down. And what that does is it makes a pocket. Now you have to only glue on 3 sides of it and leave the top side untaped so that you can fit things in. So which of these pages did you like best? Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you have any tips for getting rid of ruined or messed up pages in your sketchbook without cutting them out though. The whole point of this video is to find ways to fix mistakes, to turn them into works of art without tearing out the page, because that's the easy way out, and this video is not about that. So let me know if you have any tips down below and let me know which page you like best. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed those ideas, and here are some pictures that some people have sent me on Instagram. Some of you guys have been trying out some of my ideas from my previous sketchbook videos, and I love when you guys try these out and show them to me. You've all put so much effort into them, and I thank you so much for sending them for me to look at. If any of you guys try out any of the ideas from this video or any of the other videos, remember to tag me on Instagram. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you all again next time.